Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Harvard Business Review series. In these series, we discuss about important articles which affect your life and help increase your productivity. I encourage you to watch all our previous videos on our channel Tracks Pakistan. In today's video, we will be discussing a very important article named Negotiating Your Next Job by Hannah Riley Bowles and Bobby Thompson. Views, as you know, negotiations is a very important skill that everyone should learn. Good negotiation skills help you in business, in the corporate sector, and even in your personal life. They give you a competitive advantage over others. So it's essential that you learn the skill of negotiations. In today's episode, I've invited over Dr. Athar Mansoor, CEO Tracks. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, as I discussed, negotiations is a very important skill that everyone should have. Can you talk about the importance of negotiations for business?
Sure. I think viewers must understand that negotiation is something which we do on daily basis. When we talk to our teammates, when we talk to our supervisors, subordinates, we are negotiating on something. And negotiation has actually two dimensions. One is called distributive bargaining, and the other is called integrative bargaining or integrative negotiation. So in distributive bargaining, you try to cut and take share from a pea or from a pie
Okay.
or a cake, right? You try to get maximum share. So that's something in which you do not focus on mutually beneficial solutions. But in integrative bargaining or integrative negotiation, you try to increase the size of the pie and create a win-win situation so that it's a mutually beneficial outcome for the parties involved. If there are two parties, if there are three parties, no matter whatsoever the number of parties are, you in an integrative mode, you try to grab share for yourself, but you also let other parties in the negotiation process take their share. So this is something which is very important in business transactions. When companies are negotiating with vendors, for example, when companies are negotiating with customers or customers are negotiating with companies. Similarly, vendors negotiating with companies. So it's a two-way process. Similarly, when managers are negotiating with their subordinates or team players for some new role, maybe for some compensation package, and there are other multiple domains in which negotiations happen in and around the businesses. Okay. So usually business schools, like top business schools of the world, and we are talking about today HBR, which is Harvard Business Review, and Harvard Business Review is supervised and controlled by Harvard Business School, which is one of the leading business schools of the world. They do have specialized negotiation courses for their business graduates at undergrad, grad, and postgrad levels.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Sir, you talked about importance of negotiations in business. Can you also talk about the importance of negotiations, especially for the corporate sector? Because this is very important because right now people who are in the middle of changing jobs, who are looking for new alternative careers, what role can good negotiations play in that?
Yeah. So even if you are not looking for changing careers or maybe not changing roles, negotiation, as I've told you, is very important because you might be encountering it on daily basis. Now, coming back to your question about changing careers, for example. So usually, you know what happens that when you talk about career negotiations, people are solely or they have the tendency to solely focus on compensation package, which means what the remuneration they are going to draw, what perks they are going to get in terms of, for example, a car, vehicle, or fuel, or maybe house, or insurance, or things like that. But in this article by Hannah Riley Bowles and Bobby Thompson,
Yes.
they give a different perspective. And because we are going to review this article for the viewers, they say that focusing solely on compensation package is a folly or a fault. So when you are into career negotiations, you should not be focusing just on the compensation package. Rather, you should be focusing on the opportunity and how that opportunity can be leveraged for your overall career aspirations, your growth, your advancement, your long term. How do you see long term yourself into that particular career for which you are negotiating? So, for example, the scope of the job which you are doing, what that job brings in terms of adding value to your personality and how you can add value to your personality. And then also it talks about, this article talks about that eventually you as negotiator should be following the strategy of a mutually beneficial solution out of the entire process. So this is how these two authors have summarized the overall strategy which you should be adopting. Moreover, they also talk about that you should be knowing exactly that it should not be that part that what to negotiate, but how to negotiate. Exactly. So you should bring these two, what and how, together when you are following that negotiation process. So as we move on in the article, the authors very interestingly have highlighted or identified 4 steps. And these 4 steps are very important, and I would one by one take them for the advantage and benefit of the viewers, and I would try to explain each one of them in some detail. The first is that you should be starting your negotiation process with your career goals. Okay. So, career goals is a big thing. It's focusing on a bigger picture, not just about compensation. So, it has to be understood that when you go into the negotiation process for your career, for your which we have called career negotiation, and the authors also write it specifically as career negotiations, you need to understand what is your eventual or ultimate goal as far as work is concerned, and what are your life aspirations. So because life aspirations are extremely important, right? Absolutely. Eventually you need to settle down at some place, or you need to target that eventual aim, that target where you feel that you have achieved something out of your life, whether it's personal life and professional, and personal and professional lives actually go hand in hand together. You can't separate your personal life from, because if you are not happy in your personal life, that might get affected, that might impact negatively your professional life, and similarly vice versa. So they talk about it. And yes, you need to come out of that short run or short term gains which you can get in terms of maybe just money or the perks or the compensation you want to achieve through that career negotiation. The authors actually very interestingly highlight the example of Anya. Anya was an MBA graduate who had 2 job offers with her, and this is an interesting story. She had worked in consulting field before, and she got an opportunity from a consulting firm and also from a tech IT company. She was interested in IT company, but she had no experience in IT company. So when she thought of negotiation, she thought that if the IT company doesn't pay her as well as the consulting company, she would go for consulting. So which is a natural trap and a natural tendency, because you see, if you are comparing, for example, 500,000 K is the offer from consulting company and 90K is the offer from IT company, the tendency is to go for consulting because you are comfortable. It's your comfort zone. You have already worked. You are comfortable with how to do approach consulting. But in this case, the authors say that it was more appropriate for Anya to consider just to not consider just the compensation package, but maybe negotiate for a higher kind of a career progression or a better career progression in the IT company. Because IT is an industry which is a futuristic industry, right? And IT is something in which, cutting edge research happens, R&D happens all the time, and you can advance your career in a very graceful and in a very professional manner. So rather than just fixating herself on what she would be drawing in IT in comparison to the consulting company, it would have been a much more pragmatic approach, or a better approach, or an effective approach if Anya negotiates for a better career advancement within the IT company.
Think long term.
Yes, and maybe eventually she'll get more package also, because IT is something which is booming. True. And IT is something which is going to stay there. It's because cutting edge IT is just as Sean Peter says that creative destruction is happening in IT too much. The old technologies get replaced by new technology. The second thing, after focusing on your career goals, the authors talk about understanding what you are negotiating for. Now, this is a very interesting part of the article. So the authors actually break down the career negotiations into three buckets. The first bucket they call as asking negotiations. Then the second bucket they call as bending negotiations, and the third bucket they label as shaping negotiations. Yeah. So this is it.
Sir, so you mentioned three for shaping negotiations. Is it important that an employee should have a higher perceived value in the authority, or even newcomers can negotiate for something? Like, do you think employers should have a particular weight in terms of importance?
Yeah. So you're talking about asking, right?
Asking, yeah.
Asking, yeah. So in asking negotiation, I think you negotiate for some standard terms and conditions, which are, comparable,
Okay.
right? So, for example, I would give an example that you are negotiating with your employer for a change of job role,
Okay.
right? And then you can just highlight that these are the features of the job, and this is my skill set, and I think that this skill set is commensurate with the role which I want to assume with your boss's cooperation, or with the cooperation of the highest boss, or maybe the boss one step higher than your boss. And that is something which is reasonably commensurate with your skills. Similarly, if you are asking for some compensation or some raise in your pay, you should be able to justify that that raise in your pay is reasonable, and it is not out of place and something which is like over exaggerated, or something which is. So this is about the asking negotiation. Yeah. Now we move on to the second bucket which the authors talk about, and that is bending negotiation. This is an interesting bucket of negotiation, because in bending negotiation you ask something special.
Okay.
And that can happen. You can ask for some special role, or maybe some special assignment within the organization. But again, the party with which you are negotiating you must be able to uh, justify with that party that what you are asking for in terms of bending negotiation is not going to be not going to put your special section or wing within the organization at jeopardy, and it is not going to harm the organization overall. Because you see, if someone is taking the decision to place you somewhere because of your some ability or something which you would be showcasing to that party, you need to justify it very carefully and professionally. For this, the authors give the example of Bella. Bella is a finance expert, but she wants to go into IT. And now her boss, who is the chief information officer, or we also call that C suite in terms of CIO, chief information officer, is a little bit skeptical, because he thinks that Bella has finance background and she wants to go into IT. She will put the organization into jeopardy, or maybe she would harm the overall um, of performance of the organization. But now, when Bella is negotiating with CIO, she says that she has been working in finance and she has the experience of working in multi teams, so teams from different sections of the organization who were involved in finance, and IT was also involved, and she has exposure to IT, and she would be a good addition to the IT side. So because she wants a special treatment now, she was a finance a woman and she wants to go into IT, she wants a special treatment. So this is bending negotiation. But now you have to justify to the party that you have maybe experience, you have maybe exposure, you have maybe accumulated knowledge, because you want that special treatment. Now, coming to the last bucket of negotiation, which the authors talk about, is the shaping negotiations. And in shaping negotiation, it's the most, I think, revolutionary kind of bucket, because you would like to not only focus on your personal career path in terms of great growth, but also you would like to come up with proposals which can, in fact, change the path of your organization, so that they can be path breaking. So you want to assume something which can be path breaking for your organization. So it's called shaping. But for that, the authors ask us if we are, excuse me, if we are doing negotiations, that we should have the proper network, we should know people who would support us internally and externally in the organization, and who should be able to support us as peers, as maybe colleagues, as maybe outsiders also, so that we are able to negotiate for that shaping kind of bucket. Uh, in fact, this second type, which is shaping, and the sorry, third type, shaping, and the second time, bending, they are very popular these days because the world is moving very fast after COVID, and we have seen people working in hybrid mode, people working in remote mode. So these have become very important. Moving on to the third factor, which the step which the authors have highlighted in terms of good career negotiation or negotiation for your job, is reducing ambiguity about what, how, and with whom to negotiate. So you need to do a lot of background checks, understand what the person is like. Maybe LinkedIn can be used, social media. Outside people can be, approached and understood, and asked for information about that person, how that person thinks, what if you're negotiating with a specific person, you should know his or her idiosyncrasies, right, special characteristics of that person, what his or her personality likes or dislikes, or what his or her personality type is. So that will, and then what to negotiate for in terms of understanding that the questions like how should I negotiate, who will be my counterparts, and what do they care about. So these are the questions which you need to answer, and you need to collect information. So media, social media, peers, and people outside the organization can be approached, and you can get critical information when you go to the negotiation table or you enter into the negotiation process. And lastly, I think very important step which the authors have highlighted is enhance your negotiation through relationships and vice versa. So you need to build social support and advocacy. Sorry, social support and advocates should be with you for a particular purpose, and you should be able to, who should be able to stand by you, who should be able to support you, and you should also be able to support them, so that when you are negotiating, you are able to move forward and advance in your careers. Here, the authors give the example of Brandon, who was a systems, who was an engineer and who landed in a job of as a private equity associate. And people told him that his chances of becoming a partner in that company were very dim. But what Brandon did was that he wanted to put a project for which was called investment in a marketable robotics project. And for that, he approached some professors around that company who were working with that company as consultants to get an idea of how the proposed project can help fix the issues or challenges in the company. Similarly, he had some within the organization. He built a support system, and he built with the peers who could support him for moving into that eventual role of becoming a partner. So the summary would be that when you are in that negotiation process for your career and for your job, you need to build lasting solutions which should be beneficial for all the parties involved in negotiation. These four steps proposed by authors are very practical, very pragmatic, and I think the authors in the end have come up with a very kind of a solid, I would say, advice for people who are looking for role changes or maybe job changes. That you have a book to write of your life. Don't let anyone else write your chapters. So it's a very important advice. Similarly, this actually came up when they were interviewing people for this particular paper or for this particular article. Similarly, they also say that your narrative will be co-written with work and life partners, and negotiation is at the heart of finding mutually gratifying ways for that story to unfold.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. You've talked in detail about the article. Summing up, I would just say that, as sir mentioned, your negotiations should be specific and realistic, and do not only focus on monetary goals. Think long term and ensure that you lead a very balanced and a productive life and a career. Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights. Views. This is all for today's video. Please subscribe to Tracks, and we will keep coming with more videos. Thank you.